In the summer of 2024, Starbucks headquarters received an internal report. It contained one number: 6 consecutive quarters of declining same-store sales. 6 quarters. A year and a half. The world's largest coffee chain, with 8 million customers walking through its doors every single day, was losing them. Slowly, steadily, one cup at a time. CEO Laxman Narasimhan had been on the job barely a year. McKinsey background, blue-chip consumer goods resume, hand-picked by the board because they believed what this company needed was someone who could manage complex systems at scale. He unveiled a turnaround strategy. It was called Triple Shot Reinvention with 2 pumps. That's a real name. I did not make that up. Wall Street sat with it for a moment. Then the stock dropped 16%. Customers didn't even notice the strategy. They just noticed that the coffee cost more, the wait was longer, and that feeling, the one that used to make you want to sit down and stay, had quietly disappeared. How does a coffee business become this hard to run? And the person who eventually turned it around? He came from a company that sells burritos. This is the story of how Starbucks sold its soul and what it took to buy it back. Most people think Starbucks sells coffee. Wrong. From the very beginning, it was selling a feeling, and the man who figured that out had an epiphany on a street in Milan. In 1983, Howard Schultz was just an employee. Not even a senior one. Starbucks back then was a small Seattle shop that sold coffee beans. No drinks. No experience. Just beans. The company sent Schultz to Milan for a trade show. He wandered the streets, walked into an Italian espresso bar, and stopped dead. It wasn't the coffee that got him. It was the atmosphere. The barista knew the regulars by name. People weren't stopping in to grab something and leave, they were returning. To a place that felt like theirs. Schultz walked out of that cafe with one thought: I need to build this in America. A few years later, he bought Starbucks and started rebuilding it from the ground up. His first move shocked the industry. He offered health insurance to part-time employees. In American food service, part-time workers were, and largely still are, treated as interchangeable. Disposable. Schultz called them partners. Not employees. Partners. People thought he was being sentimental. He wasn't. He was being strategic. His logic was airtight. The experience inside a coffee shop depends entirely on the person behind the counter. If they feel valued, they'll make customers feel valued. And customers who feel valued come back. That's not a philosophy. That's a business model. Then he coined a concept that would define the brand for decades: the third place. Not home. Not the office. Starbucks, a place where you could sit without being rushed, where someone might remember your name, where you weren't just a transaction. The expansion that followed was staggering. 30,000 stores worldwide. A new location opening roughly every 6 hours at the peak. The Green Mermaid logo became shorthand for civilization. You land in an unfamiliar city, you see it, and you know: Wi-Fi, consistent coffee, a place to sit. That was the empire Schultz built. But empires carry a curse. And it usually shows up at the moment of peak glory. Starbucks didn't get taken down by a competitor. Its biggest threat turned out to be its own hunger for growth and the slow, quiet process of becoming exactly the kind of company it was built to replace. Growth is a drug. And Starbucks got hooked. When the pressure to open more stores, hit better quarterly numbers, and grow the loyalty program every year became the primary objective, the company started making decisions that ran directly against everything the third place stood for. The first shift, the mobile order takeover. When app-based ordering exploded, Starbucks leaned in hard. Drive-through lanes, mobile pickups, digital-first everything. Customers could order before they left home, walk in, grab their cup, and be gone in under 3 minutes. Efficient? Absolutely. But the store floor transformed into a fulfillment center. Baristas stopped looking up. The line of people waiting to be seen was replaced by a queue of names on a screen. Seating got pulled to make room for pickup shelves. The people who used to come in to stay started to feel like they were in the way. The second shift, the discount spiral. To prop up traffic, the company loaded up on promotions. Buy one get ones, bundled deals, double star days. And it worked in the short term. Customers came back. But they were coming back for the deal, not for the coffee. Not for the experience. Starbucks had trained its own customer base to wait for discounts. A brand built entirely on emotional premium had conditioned people to be rational about it. That's a slow-motion disaster. The third problem, the menu went completely off the rails. Chasing trends and younger demographics, Starbucks kept adding unicorn frappuccinos, dragon drinks, lavender oat milk macchiatos. Every new launch sounded fun in a press release and turned into a logistical nightmare behind the counter. A single complex order could have a dozen customization options. During a rush, a barista might be juggling 30 of them simultaneously. Wait times stretched from a few minutes to 15. Customers standing at the pickup counter were anxious. Baristas were drowning. Nobody was happy. The company had drifted, without any single dramatic decision, from making you feel like someone to processing you like a unit. Then inflation hit. A Starbucks drink quietly crossed $8. For the customers who had been coming in for the ritual, for the moment, for the feeling, $8 for an industrial production line experience started to feel like a bad trade. They drifted to Dutch Brothers. To local independents. To convenience stores. To capsule machines at home. 7 consecutive quarters. Declining same-store sales. And triple-shot reinvention with 2 pumps? Nobody, not customers, not employees, could tell you what it actually meant. The board made a decision that confused almost everyone. They went and hired someone who had never sold a cup of coffee in his life, handed him a contract worth nearly $100 million, and bet the entire company on it. August 2024. Starbucks announces its new CEO. Brian Niccol. From Chipotle. The immediate reaction from a lot of people, are you serious? But if you looked at Niccol's track record, the logic was actually crystal clear. When Niccol took over Chipotle in 2018, the chain was in freefall. Years earlier, a series of E. coli outbreaks had sent hundreds of customers to the hospital and torched the brand's reputation. The stock had collapsed. Regulars had walked away. Niccol's first move wasn't a discount campaign. It wasn't a splashy new menu. It was rebuilding trust. He stripped the menu back to the essentials. He standardized kitchen operations to near Toyota factory precision. He launched a marketing campaign called For Real, a direct signal to customers that Chipotle was getting back to honest food, not gimmicks. By the time he was done, Chipotle's stock had climbed nearly 8-fold. Starbucks wanted that. Bad. The compensation package, close to $100 million in year one. That number made headlines. But the underlying logic was simple: find the right person, and that fee pays for itself many times over. Get it wrong, and it doesn't matter how much you saved. Niccol's first week on the job looked nothing like a typical CEO debut. He didn't fly to New York to meet analysts. He didn't release a vision document. He put on an apron and went behind the counter. He worked shifts at actual stores. He watched. He asked questions. He listened. What he found was telling. Baristas weren't just stressed because they were busy. They were stressed because the system gave them no way to see what was coming, no way to manage complexity, no predictability. Every rush felt like being blindsided. He also found that the physical environment, the countertops people used to linger at, the soft lighting, the outlets, the chalkboards, had been quietly dismantled over the years in the name of throughput. In the name of turning tables faster. His read on the situation: Starbucks didn't have a coffee problem. It had dismantled, piece by piece, every reason customers had to slow down and stay. Every consultant in the room would have said the same thing: sales are down, so you cut prices, run promotions, and buy back the traffic. Niccol did the exact opposite. And it worked. The first major strategic decision Niccol announced stopped Wall Street cold. He was killing the discounts. not trimming them, not phasing them out gradually, eliminating a large portion of the promotional infrastructure that had become central to driving traffic. On paper, this made no sense. You're a company in the middle of a multi-year sales decline, and your solution is to stop offering deals? But Niccol's diagnosis was precise: promotions were generating borrowed traffic. Customers coming in for a deal weren't loyal, they were arbitrageurs. And every buy one get one was quietly telling the market that the full price product wasn't actually worth full price. Alongside the discount cuts, he made 3 moves that looked small but carried enormous strategic logic. First, bring back the seating. The chairs that had been pulled out to make room for pickup shelves went back in. Partitions came down. More outlets were installed. The physical message to every customer who walked in: you are welcome to stay. We're not rushing you. Second, bring back the names. Baristas writing customers' names on cups, the practice that had been reduced to a brand cliché, was quietly but deliberately reinvested with meaning. Niccol pushed to make it real again, not performative. It costs nothing. But the signal it sends is enormous: you're a person here, not order number 47. Third, cut the menu. Slow-moving, high-complexity items got cut. The core lineup got tighter and more defined. The direct operational result: baristas could breathe during a rush. Wait times dropped. The customers standing at the counter stopped feeling like they were holding up a production line. All 3 moves came from the same strategic premise: Starbucks doesn't sell coffee. It sells the feeling of being treated like you matter. As long as that feeling is real, the price premium is justified. The moment it isn't, nothing else can save you. Niccol put it plainly on an earnings call. When you give people an experience that feels unique, differentiated, special, a little touch of luxury, it goes a long way. And we're seeing that play out across every income bracket. The numbers started moving. Q1 fiscal 2026, global same-store sales up 4%. China up 7%. Q2 fiscal 2026, US same-store sales up 7.1%. The first quarter in over 2 years showing simultaneous revenue and profit growth. Revenue hit $9.5 billion for the quarter. And Howard Schultz, the man who had the epiphany in that Milan cafe 4 decades earlier, made a surprise appearance at a company leadership event and said, "I did a cartwheel in my living room. The turnaround is real." But if you read the fine print, there's a number buried in the financials that should give everyone pause, because the hardest part of this comeback hasn't happened yet. The good news is obvious. Customers are back. Sales are moving. The culture is thawing. But look closely at the margins. Before the pandemic, Starbucks routinely ran operating margins in the 16 to 18% range. Right now, they're sitting around 8%. The traffic came back. The profitability didn't. Where's the money going? Store renovations. More baristas on the floor during peak hours, which means a permanently higher labor cost structure. And raw material pressure: coffee bean prices are running nearly $1 per pound above year-ago levels, with tariff headwinds layered on top. Niccol has won the battle of winning customers back. The war of making this business genuinely profitable again is still in progress. Then there's China. Starbucks has over 7,000 locations there, its most important international growth market. But a domestic competitor called Luckin Coffee has fundamentally rewritten the rules of the game, pricing cups at the equivalent of about $1.50 and running an almost entirely digital operation. The emotional premium logic that works in Chicago and Seattle is a much harder sell in Shanghai and Chengdu. Niccol's response is to spin the China business into a joint venture with a local partner, retaining a minority stake and letting the operation run with more local flexibility. The strategic rationale is sound. The execution is still unproven. And there's the question that nobody in the company is saying out loud. Is Niccol genuinely the new Howard Schultz? Or is this a situation where the previous CEO set such a low base that almost any competent operator would have seen the same bounce? The real test comes when the macro turns ugly. When consumers genuinely tighten up, not just feel cautious. When coffee prices stay elevated and don't ease. When a better funded competitor decides to take a real run at the core customer. Starbucks hasn't been through that test under Niccol yet. Whether this is a real turnaround, or a very good start to one, that answer is still being written.